Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. This is Nikabi Ninja. Thank you for joining my channel if you're a current subscriber, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that notification bell to be notified when I post a new video. Now, I know I haven't posted for a while, and I want to apologize to my subscribers about that, but I was dealing with grief, and it can be a bit of a roller coaster, especially because it's almost a year since my father's passing, but having to deal with the passing of a close loved one is difficult, especially if a lot of things have still went unsaid. So just dealing and processing all of that took a while. And as you can see, we're in a new house, so along with that we moved and a few other things. So it's been a whole process, and that's why I didn't post for a while. I just wasn't in the right mindset to be able to convey my emotions, especially with what everything that was going on. So sorry about that, but I'm back and I'm much better, and yeah. So let's just get into it, because this Revert series, the part 2, has been a long time coming. A quick disclaimer, these are my experiences, therefore they do not reflect nor encompass the whole of any one group of people or religion, etc., etc. You know, to each their own, and this is just my story in the sea of many. So don't take any specific offense, because that's not my intention. I'm just trying to convey a story to you. And if I do say anything that is offensive to anyone, I'm sorry, but not that sorry, because I can't cater to the emotions of any specific person, especially if I don't know you. So in part 1, I let you know initially how my life in the church began, how my childhood was, and things like that, like backstory, what I understood of Islam up to a certain point, and my feelings in general toward the philosophy of Christianity. So now we can get into like the real meat and taters of what actually led me to quote unquote discover Islam. During my teen years, my resentment for the church basically grew and grew, and it's because I didn't understand why the preaching always clashed with what I read in the Bible. And I began to instinctively recognize when it was God speaking, like in the Old Testament, and when it was mankind speaking, say in the New Testament. And even in both places, there's kind of areas where it'll mishmash, you know. It'll be like, oh, that sounds like God right there, and then, oh, that definitely sounds like mankind talking. So anyways, because of this, I was basically fed up with being told that the words of man was the words of God, and I clearly knew the difference. So it was like, stop trying to pull the wool over my eyes. On top of the irritation and confusion that I was getting from other human beings telling me to believe such and such about God, I had to endure these strange experiences with beings that my mom would call haints or haunts. And I could not explain or avoid these occurrences because I basically been having them my whole entire life, you know, ever since I was a child. And you know how they always say that children and animals can feel and see certain things. Well, that was very true in my case. And I would gravitate toward my pets, which were mainly dogs because my parents bred dogs, and birds and things like that, because they would sometimes react when I got that feeling. And that's why I've always gravitated towards animals, because human beings didn't understand necessarily what I was going through. So the occurrences would worsen throughout my life. They went from sightings to physical manifestations such as sleep paralysis, different types of auditory phenomenon, and even objects moving, like my bed. And these occurrences were sporadic, but to remedy them, I was generally always told to call out the name of Jesus, which I did, and the activity would stop for a short time, but it would always happen again. So I started to think, well, I was like, well, if Jesus is God, then he's either A, allowing this to happen to me continuously because I'm a bad person, or two, he's not all powerful, or three, I'm just not worth saving. Like, it was just either one of those, if not all three. And I'll talk about these occurrences in another video if anyone is interested, and if you're interested in knowing, because there are some stories that I do want to tell on my Gen series that occurred when I was very young, just to let you know, because it did play a part in my belief system, and also like my constant litmus test of religion. Like, if this religion can make this go away, then I know it's real, So that was basically my conclusion in my young mind, and it kind of stayed with me my whole adult life. I officially decided to leave the church in my late teens. This means I replaced my faith with blatant disregard to the prophet Jesus, or at that time, who they were telling me was God's son. God, and just the entire Christian system. Like, I just didn't want to have anything to do with it. And the only time that I attended church was when my family urged me to, but I would never took anything from it except for a good reason to get dressed up, listen to gossip, and smile for people I barely knew or trusted, except for like the few churchgoers that, treated me with kindness and affection and who I felt like were family members. And then 9/11 happened, and I was in junior high ROTC class, watching the towers fall and watching the towers get hit and then fall. And I was stunned that, someone could blame an entire culture and religion for the misguided actions of a small, like, murderous group of people. And I thought at first when I saw the video, like a lot of people in my class, that it was like a political attack or like a failed hijacked attempt. Like, we didn't think that it had anything to do with Islam or anything like that. That came out a little bit later. But when I saw, the towers fall, when we all saw the towers fall the way that they did, like, everybody in class was like, what? Like, it's like we all thought that the tower's gonna, if they fell, that they were gonna fall like a Jenga tower. You pull out one piece and it just, it either sways to the side, but it never just falls right down. The Jenga tower never does this. It never does that. I mean, maybe on the rare occasion, but the Jenga tower never just does that. So, I digress, though. There are plenty of conspiracy theory videos out there that you can watch. I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist myself, but you can watch all those videos later, on your own. From what was floating around in the news media, like, the whole Islamic world was to blame for this attack, and it was like a religion based on radical death and murder and misogyny. And in some places there are some ill-advised, misguided, and people who think that that's what Islam is about, and they will propagate that. But I myself never met a Muslim, and I didn't even like see one, to my knowledge, based on the way that they were portraying these people on the news and on TV. I never seen a Muslim look like that. What I thought at the time was that the African American men who had on the bow ties and sold the bean pies that my mom loved when we went to go vacation in California, they said they were Muslims, but I was just like, okay, like, you guys don't really look like it, but all right. I mean, I'm not gonna knock it. I was a kid at that point. I didn't know. I didn't really care. So a few months later, I was in a courthouse with my mom and my big sister, and we were waiting for the elevator. And as we stood by the elevator, my mom had her back to us, just talking. And when the doors opened, she turned around and she like let out this shriek. And it caused like everybody that was around us to just look in our direction. I didn't know what was going on. So I look around my mom, and there's this woman in a veil like this. And it's dark blue, and it matches her outfit, which was like a dark blue abaya with some really beautiful like sparkly embroidery on it. It was really pretty. And she had kohl around her eyes, and I don't know if she had on henna or not. I didn't look at her hands, but she kind of like gave us this like nervous looking smile back. Like I could just see it in her eyes. And I smiled back at her as my mom was like holding her chest, like, I'm like, and me and my big sister are like, Mom, like, you're being over dramatic. Chill out. It's just another human being. And she's like, with that thing on her face, like, I could only see her eyes, and I was just scared. You know, my mom's just so cute and like a little Southern belle. And I mean, this woman, she got off the elevator and we got on, but I couldn't take my eyes off her as she walked away, because she was so confident, and there was just this beauty about her entire being that I had never really seen before. And I like, just my whole curiosity, I like felt no malevolence from her. And the news and all the other, you know, sources were claiming that these Muslims were like evil and they're coming to like destroy America. But she had smiled, she had been polite, even though, you know, she could have easily taken offense to what my mom said. She could easily have taken offense to the fact that my mom, you know, her actions had brought all this attention to her, you know, but she was calm and cordial, and like the total opposite of what like these evil Arab invaders that the news was pushing. Like, I can't speak. Why can I talk? But yeah, so that was my first time actually seeing what the news was showing everyone as Muslims, and it was a Muslim woman. And I didn't really think about it after that. Like, it is what it is. Like, I don't think that, you know, an entire group is at fault for this, but that was like when Muslims kind of were put in the spotlight, and when I actually began to recognize who was a Muslim and who wasn't. And you know, I didn't really like go into researching Islam. It kind of just like fell to the wayside.